This message comes from Michelin. More than a tire company, Michelin is an innovation company, now taking on space, developing an airless wheel for space exploration. Motion for life. More at michelinman.com/y-michelin/innovation.
Hey everyone, you're listening to Code Switch. I'm B.A. Parker. And today we have Jasmine Garsd joining us. Jasmine covers immigration on NPR's national desk. Hey Jasmine, welcome back to Code Switch.
Hey Parker, thanks for having me again.
All right, so what do you have for us today?
So Parker, what do you think of when you think of Florida?
I mean, it depends. It's so big. Florida, I think of Disney World, and I think of Zora Neale Hurston, but I also think of, Florida Man.
Okay, true. I went to none of those Floridas this summer. Instead, I spent the summer knocking on the doors of people who opened them just a crack before letting me into almost always dark living rooms where the curtains were always drawn. They offered me un cafecito as they spoke in hushed tones about what's been happening.
Muchas veces me pregunto, no es que cuestione a Dios, no, porque no soy quien para cuestionarlo.
That voice you're hearing is of a woman I spent a lot of time with. We're referring to her by her initial, F, because she and her husband, like most people in this episode who asked for anonymity, are undocumented, and they're very scared of the current crackdown. She's from Guatemala, her husband is from El Salvador, and one of the first things she told me from her dimly lit room was, I don't doubt God, but I don't always understand
Pero
God.
me pregunto, este proceso que estoy viviendo, ¿va a haber algo bueno que Dios quiera hacer? No lo entiendo. Muchas veces no lo entiendo.
And she says she's been thinking this ever since the time her husband disappeared. If you want to know what the future of immigration enforcement looks like, I think you should look to Florida. Under the leadership of Republican Governor Ron DeSantis, Florida has promised to be at the forefront of the nation's immigration crackdown. And the state has passed some of the most severe immigration laws in the country, forbidding undocumented people from having driver's license, deploying highway patrol for immigration policing, and for at least a year, making it a crime of human trafficking to drive an undocumented person into the state. And this has pushed a lot of immigrant communities into hiding over the summer.
I think many people outside of the state have a feel for what has been happening, but not at the level of detail.
I think what's happening right now is we're seeing on social media these images, these videos, these photos. They contain this really explosive violence. It's on the news, it's on social media, it's in your face. But there's another shift that's happening in our country, and that's happening behind closed doors. It's happening in conversations that families are having. And what I want to do today is tell you about that silent shift.
All right, Jasmine, take it away.
This message comes from Schwab. At Schwab, how you invest is your choice, not theirs. That's why when it comes to managing your wealth, Schwab gives you more choices. You can invest and trade on your own. Plus, get advice and more comprehensive wealth solutions to help meet your unique needs. With award-winning service, low costs, and transparent advice, you can manage your wealth your way at Schwab. Visit schwab.com to learn more. This message comes from NPR sponsor SAP Concur. LaTora Jackson, Senior Manager of Finance Projects at AtriCure, shares how SAP Concur Solutions helped them automate outdated procedures so employees could focus on purposeful work.
Literally, employees would receive a mailed invoice from our suppliers, put it in an approval folder, and walk it around to about 3 different desks. The great thing with Concur Invoice, it provides automatic workflow. The AI technology for the invoice reading has made it seamless and almost touchless for our accounts payable team to be more efficient in what they're doing. We're now able to have team building and decision-making input from that team that we normally didn't have the time to receive before. So it was almost like a retraining of the brain on job functionality and opportunities that they have here at AtriCure.
Visit concur.com to learn more.
Let's go back to F's house. It took a moment for my eyes to adjust to that very low-lit living room. In a corner, there was something I see a lot in houses as I travel that state. There were stacks of water bottles, canned food, baby supplies. Like most folks I spoke to in F's situation, she was trying to leave the house as little as possible. She and her husband have been here for about 20 years. She asked that I not say the name of her baby boy, but I can tell you that as per her explanation,
Ese nombre nos habla la palabra de Dios, su amor y su misericordia.
it means God is merciful. And she says she thinks about this often lately. The couple tried to get pregnant for 12 years, she says, 12 years. There were 3 miscarriages. And then it happened. She finally got pregnant about a year ago. She saw it as a miracle.
Mi hijo es un milagro de Dios. Pasé mucha espera y decía, y siempre le digo al bebé, siempre te decía tener, le digo.
Fort Lauderdale, where she lives, is about an hour drive from the Everglades swamp. It's in the middle of summer. It's impossibly hot that time of year. And in the late afternoon, the cicadas scream the loudest. F says during her pregnancy, she would lie down in bed in the coolness of the house and close her eyes, imagining her son. She dreamt him up before he even arrived.
Me imaginaba un bebé hermoso, pero no podía imaginar su cara.
I imagined him beautiful, but I could never picture his face. And when he finally did arrive, the family would go out a lot, sometimes to the swamplands in the Everglades to go fishing. So on this one trip back in June, while F's husband was fishing for perch, she took a break to breastfeed in her car. And this is where she was when her husband got approached by a fish and wildlife officer asking for his fishing license. And then the officer asked for his driver's license. Now, undocumented immigrants can't have driver's licenses in Florida. So the wildlife officer called ICE agents. This is a video she took of that interaction. She took it from the car. You can see she's kind of like hiding the phone near the bottom of the window. The kids' music is still on, and it's strange, you know, watching the footage of ICE agents showing up to the tune of children's songs. She told me that the wildlife officer who called the ICE agents was a Latina. Tells me this every single time we speak. A pale Latina like you, she says, pointing at me.
Sí, era algo blanca, pero se hablaba español, se notaba acento latino. Y se vio con odio porque sí se notó.
She was white, but she spoke Spanish, and I could see she hated us, she says. ICE arrived. She says she watched the agents talking to her husband. The whole family got detained by immigration officials that day. They were taken to a local jail where she was separated from her husband.
Le decía a mi bebé que íbamos a salir de ese lugar, que pronto. Y yo lo único que
She says she would tell the baby, we're going to get out of here soon. But she says she was panicked. She's diabetic. She'd been nursing the baby and didn't have enough water to drink. She says she felt weak. As she retells it, that's when she heard a knock on the wall.
Él tocó la pared y él tocó y yo le digo al bebé, es papá, le digo yo, es papá el que está ahí, porque él hizo un sonido.
And I told
yo
the
lo pude
baby,
sentir.
that's your father. She says they kept tapping on the wall back and forth for the next 8 hours.
Tocaba la pared y seguía.
She knows it was him because she caught a glimpse of him in the adjacent cell as she was released later that night. This was the last time she saw her husband. Before she was let go, authorities put an ankle monitor on her. She says she felt her son's eyes on her as they placed it on her ankle.
Porque él se me quedaba viendo como, ¿qué haces? O no sé qué pasaba.
And I said, baby, it's an ankle monitor. It's okay. She points to her ankle as she tells me this story. She's wearing very cute Crocs, the kind with like little charms on them, a watermelon, a Jolly Rancher. You almost don't see that there's an ankle monitor. At the jail, authorities told her she has 3 months to leave the country. But what no one would tell her was where her husband had been taken.
Entonces, desaparece, entonces entro yo como en un miedo.
He disappeared, she says. She uses this word to describe her fear.
Estaba opaca, no podía pensar yo en ese momento.
And I turned opaque.
Jasmine, I often hear about these family separations, and they always seem so terrifying. Although we gotta say, this isn't necessarily a new practice when it comes to immigration enforcement, right? Presidents Obama and Biden also did this, though I feel like it didn't make quite as many headlines during their administrations. But is there something that makes what's happening now different from other administrations, or even Trump's first term?
Well, I would say a sort of impunity. I mean, during this current Trump term, unlike in others, government officials have said very clearly having an American citizen child does not protect undocumented immigrants from deportation. In fact, we've seen American citizens themselves getting detained. But, beyond family separations, what I keep encountering in my reporting is disappearances, days, sometimes even weeks, in which a family does not know where their loved one is. And going back to F, for the next 3 days after her release, F says she called immigration officials, scoured the federal immigration detention website, but she could not find her husband. And meanwhile, on the TV and on social media, F was starting to hear about this new detention facility.
Officials are calling it Alligator Alcatraz.
A construir el Alligator Alcatraz. Es un
Nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz.
Anunció que visitará el llamado Alcatraz de los Caimanes junto a Christy.
It was run by the state of Florida, out in the Everglades swamp, not far from where they'd gone fishing that weekend, the last time she saw him.
This facility will house some of the most menacing migrants, some of the most vicious people on the planet.
The facility was close to a rarely used airfield with tents and caged cells for up to 5,000 migrant detainees. And it was built in a matter of days, very hastily, by the state of Florida to hold what Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem referred to as, quote, the worst scumbags.
But Jasmine, even putting aside the problems with describing human beings as scumbags, the people being sent to Alligator Alcatraz were largely not people who had committed particularly vicious crimes, right?
Right. So, according to DHS statistics, 53% of immigration detainees had either pending charges or a conviction, and the rest had no criminal record. And, I should clarify, even for those who do have criminal convictions, being held without proper food, air, water, or full-on disappearances, this is not how we have agreed to treat people in detention in this country.
So was F's husband taken to Alligator Alcatraz?
That was her fear. She would turn on the TV and see talk of a facility so secure no criminal could possibly break out of it. And she says she would think about her husband, a man in his late 40s who owns a landscaping business, who's active in the church, he goes fishing, and she had a feeling that he'd been sent there. But wherever he was, she knew she needed to find him. So she contacted a Florida immigration lawyer named Jeff Botello.
Well, she was desperate. She was desperate for help.
To be clear, Botello doesn't represent F or her husband, but at the time he agreed to help try and at least locate the guy.
So how did he go about that?
Well, he tried to call a bunch of numbers, and eventually he got to the Florida Attorney General's office. And he asked for a number for Alligator Alcatraz. And the operator was silent for a moment.
And she kind of froze for a second and said, "Sir, I don't have a number for Alligator Alcatraz." Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what are we in Russia? What is this? It's like, you don't have a number for a facility where the government of the state of Florida is housing immigrants?
After 4 days of hearing nothing for 4 days, F gets a call at 3 a.m. It was her husband. He was, in fact, exactly where she had feared he'd be.
Horrible, encerrados en un lugar que se va la luz y...
He said it was horrible, she says. The electricity goes out, and so does the air conditioning. The heat becomes suffocating. There's not enough water, so they can only shower once a week.
And this was happening this past summer. But weren't they supposed to close Alligator Alcatraz?
I think a lot of people think that, and I think it's because in August, Alligator Alcatraz was ordered closed by a federal court. And then, shortly thereafter, a federal appeals court said it could remain open. The Trump administration has praised the facility and said it's a blueprint for other detention centers in the country. Similar centers have been announced nationwide. Further north in Florida, the so-called Deportation Depot. In Indiana, a center nicknamed the Speedway Slammer. In Nebraska, a place dubbed the Cornhusker Clink. In any case, back to F. A few months ago, her husband was moved out of Alligator Alcatraz. He's in Texas now, awaiting deportation. And she says she's planning on leaving the country. As soon as it happens, she says, she's out.
Este país tanto que lo decía.
She keeps saying this thing. She says, this country that I desired so much. She repeats it a couple of times, and then she sort of trails off.
Este país que tanto decía.
She's been taking medication for the anxiety. And, Parker, that's something that, people rarely talk about. The sheer amount of women who I have met who are taking medication to calm their nerves because something like this happened to them.
I mean, yeah, they're in a constant state of panic. That's understandable.
Yeah, so she's taking this medication. It makes her a little sleepy. In fact, there was like a drowsiness to the whole house, the way the curtains were always drawn, the stuffiness, the distant scream of the cicadas, the constant penumbra. It was like forever nap time. Opaque, as F would say. Before I left, I asked F this pretty heavy question that was on my mind, which is, would she ever consider leaving her boy here with family? He is an American citizen. And she has a sister who is legally in the U.S. And she said no. She said she was done. She said when she was pregnant with that boy and she would lie down and dream him up, she told him,
Que siempre quiero estar con él.
I always want to be with you. She had a lot of American dreams back then. And he is the only one that came true.
When we come back, Jasmine drives to Maryland and speaks with a mom who is taking unusual steps to keep her kids safe.
My mom told me it's gonna be okay. I worry too something will happen to her, like something won't get her.
That's coming up. Stay with us.
This message comes from the Council for Interior Design Qualification. Interior designer and CIDQ president Siavash Madani describes his fundamentals of interior design.
I think interior design is about responsibility. It's not just the way a space looks or the way a space photographs. To me, better design means functional, safe, accessible, and inclusive design.
Learn more at cidq.org/NPR. This message comes from Scholastic with The Nazi Conspiracy by best-selling authors Brad Meltzer and Josh Mensch. This thrilling new nonfiction for young readers is a heart-pounding front-row seat into the action behind a secret assassination plot that could have changed the course of history. The Nazi Conspiracy Young Readers Edition by Brad Meltzer and Josh Mensch is available wherever books are sold. This message comes from the Council for Interior Design Qualification. Interior designer and CIDQ president Siavash Madani describes his fundamentals of interior design.
I think interior design is about responsibility. It's not just the way a space looks or the way a space photographs. To me, better design means functional, safe, accessible, and inclusive design.
Learn more at cidq.org/NPR.
Parker.
Jasmine.
Code Switch. And we're back talking about how the Trump administration's immigration policies have upended the lives of immigrant moms and their families, and how they're planning for an uncertain future in this country. Here's Jasmine again.
The kids say this summer was the summer of nothing, that it was boring as hell. Nothing happened, nothing at all.
We didn't go anywhere.
One mother in Maryland told me she quietly lost her mind this summer.
Encerrados estuvimos. No salimos, la verdad, somos sinceros, no salimos.
We spent it locked down, she says. We didn't go out. The weather was bad the day I drove down there to the southern part of the state where rivers and creeks crisscrossed the land. It was late August, hurricane season. And Tropical Storm Erin had led to coastal flooding warnings up and down the mid-Atlantic. I kept kind of eyeing the water nervously every time I crossed a bridge. I was going to check in with a family I wrote about earlier this year for a story about self-deportation. Now, self-deportation is one of the centerpieces of the Trump administration's immigration policy. The message from the government has been, take your kids with you. They can always come back as adults. But back when we first met, last winter, this mother in Maryland told me very firmly she would under no circumstances self-deport with her children.
Lo siento, pero mis niños son nacidos acá.
My children were born here, she says. They are American citizens. This mother asked that I refer to her as M. M and her husband live in a pretty rural area of Maryland, and they are both from Guatemala. They're also both undocumented. M's husband desperately wants to self-deport. He is really out there in the world every day working as a landscaper. And he's quite worried about being detained and taken to a detention center. And he says she just doesn't understand that it's not the same for her. She works from home, making piñatas and party favors for quinceañeras, weddings, birthdays. The couple fights about this constantly. The kids see it, and it gives them bad anxiety. Back in the winter, when we first met, her youngest daughter, her 7-year-old, first initial L, had a cold. She kept having to be sent home from school. But the real reason was because she was having panic attacks.
I feel frustrated sometimes. I was just feeling sad. My mom told me it's gonna be okay. I worry too something will happen to her, like something won't get her.
After we met that one time, Em and I stayed in touch. She would send me WhatsApp messages almost every day, pictures of her piñatas and stuff your tia sends you on WhatsApp, a daily blessing, softly lit images of flowers or kittens inside flowers with some motivational quote. And I'd ask about the kids. How is everyone doing? Has the family made any decisions? And then, around the beginning of summer, radio silence. After a few weeks of not hearing anything from Em, I reached out. I could tell my messages hadn't even gone through. I started to wonder if maybe Em or her husband got arrested, deported, or maybe they finally agreed to leave, to self-deport. It was strange that I hadn't heard from her, but this has sort of become a constant in my life as an immigration reporter. For the last few months, on a regular basis, I will have an extraordinarily intimate conversation with a complete stranger. Or someone will find my phone number and call me from inside a detention center, and they will tell me their worst fear, their desperation. They will ask me what I know as if I know. And then that person will just vanish. It's like my WhatsApp is filled with ghosts. So yeah, over the summer, when I stopped hearing from them, I decided to go check in on this family. As I drove to Southern Maryland in the storm, I was really unsure of what I was going to find. But as I approached the driveway, someone drew the curtain and these 4 faces pressed up against the window. And it was Em and the kids. And they immediately bolted out, smiling and running to say hello. Even though she was wearing not platform shoes, she was wearing wedges, which was kind of hilarious. Because people running and jogging in heels is very funny to me.
Just happy to see you.
She looked the same, even though she's lost a lot of weight. She says her stomach hurts a lot. Son los nervios. She's still got these very ruddy cheeks, and she laughs at everything. She has an infectious, raspy laughter. She's always dressed really cute. She reminds me of a little like Fran Drescher. Sometimes it throws me off. She'll be talking about how she had to hide in her house all summer, and it really affected her psychologically. And then once we were inside the house, Em apologized for going silent. She explained that her phone broke earlier this summer, and she just couldn't afford to buy a new one. The party planning business, it's not going very well. She says people, Latino immigrants in particular, aren't doing a lot of celebrating lately. Em's husband still wants to go back to Guatemala. Earlier this summer, he was at work at a landscaping job when ICE agents showed up. He went to his car to lay low, and he sent Em a message on Facebook. They're here. Em's 7-year-old, Elle, explains.
One day, when they were working, ICE came there.
How did you know about that?
Because our dad sent us a message.
And how did that make you feel?
Sad.
Em says she didn't eat at all that day.
Yo me puse tan mal que me dio, no comí todo el día. Yo sentí que me agarraba hasta dolor de huesos, o sea, lo mismo, encierro.
My bones hurt from the anxiety. We locked ourselves in. I was scared. And that event sent the family into a sort of lockdown for the entire summer, hence the summer of nothing. The family was stuck indoors in their small trailer home for 3 whole summer months with 4 children, ages 1 to 12. As Em and I talk, her youngest boy has climbed on top of the laundry machine and is throwing out about 100, give or take, plastic Easter eggs onto the floor.
Mami, no, así no.
The baby she's rocking is, unbeknownst to her, pointing a very large bottle of glue at me, directly at my face. And then her 7-year-old walks in holding an upside-down cat. Oh my God, the cat. She held a strand of her hair and in true Em style made a joke. I didn't have these white hairs last time we met, did I? It's not all jokes. The eldest kid, Kay, says this summer was actually incredibly boring. Nothing happened. Nothing at all.
Boring because we didn't go anywhere.
Kay is 12, and you can really, hear her adolescence simmering. This summer, she was selected to go to a STEM summer camp for kids who are interested in science. Her parents pulled her out. They told her the family had to hunker down. all summer activities were canceled.
No. Si nosotros vamos a un lado, por ejemplo, un acuario, piscinas o hoteles, pues está mucha inmigración, nos van a deportar a nosotros.
My husband had to explain to them, says, you are U.S. citizens, but we are not. If we take you to the aquarium, to the pool, we could get detained. We could get deported. Without looking at her mom, Kay says she's excited about school starting again. But Em was filled with questions like, what if immigration agents come for me while my kids are in school or as I'm picking them up? And can immigration agents go into the school? Can they ask my kids about our legal status? I heard concerns like this from a lot of parents.
Oh, can they?
I actually reached out to Elora Mukherjee to ask about this. She's a professor of law at Columbia Law School and also the director of the Immigration Rights Clinic at the school.
And what did Mukherjee say?
There are no confirmed reports of ICE raids or ICE enforcement inside of schools.
Mukherjee says she understands the fear, though, because almost as soon as President Trump took office, in January, these previously designated locations like schools and churches and hospitals were deemed no longer off limits for immigration enforcement. But she clarifies that agents, and this is really important, agents need a warrant to go into a school. Parents and children cannot be asked about their immigration status by the school. However, just a few weeks ago in Chicago, a teacher, you might have seen this, Parker, was chased by armed immigration officers into the preschool she works at. DHS said they weren't targeting the school itself, but you can see how the lines for many parents and students feel blurry. So back to Em. Her kids started school in the fall, like kids all over the country. And then a few days later, I got this audio message from her. She had a phone again.
Pone los nervios de punta, dijo, pero hay dos patrullas del sheriff. Son de janeras con blancos, pero ellos están en la...
She's standing about a block away from the school bus stop. The sheriff's department is there. She has to pick the kids up, but she's scared.
No sé si llegar hasta allá en la pura parada o quedarme aquí en la esquina me quedé.
About an hour later, I get another out-of-breath message. They made it home.
En casa. Que, o sea, me puse helada, sudando helado.
I froze, she says. She grabbed the kids and they ran back home. It's okay now, she repeats. It's okay. Nothing happened. And then she laughs and says, I got as cold as a cucumber, though.
Ya valí pepino.
That first week of school, Em says she did what a lot of parents across America did.
Me dormí tanto.
She caught up on her sleep. And then she did something a lot of parents never consider doing. She reached out to a friend who is an American citizen and started the paperwork to give emergency guardianship in case she or her husband get picked up by ICE.
And that's our show. But this Saturday, you'll hear the second part of this episode where we talk to a mom who's taking on this role of emergency guardian.
You're just kind of like, man, I hope we don't have to go through with this. Not because we wouldn't gladly welcome this kid into our home, but because the impetus for doing that would be something horrible.
You can follow us on Instagram at NPR Code Switch. If email is more your thing, ours is codeswitch@npr.org. And subscribe to the podcast on the NPR app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also subscribe to the Code Switch newsletter by going to npr.org/Code Switch newsletter. And just a reminder that signing up for Code Switch Plus is a great way to support our show and public media, and you'll get to listen to every episode sponsor-free. So please go find out more at plus.npr.org/codeswitch.
This episode was produced by Javier Lopez. It was edited by Leah Danella. Our engineer was Kwesi Lee. And a very special thanks to Courtney Stein.
And a big shout out to the rest of the Code Switch massive. Christina Kala, Jess Kung, Dahlia Mortada, Violin Williams, and Jean Dimby. I'm B.A. Parker.
I'm Jasmine Garsd.
Hydrate.
Cuídense mucho, chicos.
This message comes from Vital Farms, who works with small American farms to bring you pasture-raised eggs. Farmer Tanner Pace shares a moment that brings him a sense of purpose.
I think that when the barn doors open and the hens run to the paddocks, you can truly see what a happy hen really is. I love pasture-raised eggs because you can see the work and the pride that the farmers have and have put into these eggs.
To learn more about how Vital Farms farmers care for their hens, visit vitalfarms.com.
This message comes from KeyBank. Every successful business evolves, and to keep up, you need a banking relationship that evolves too. When you collaborate with KeyBank, you don't get one-size-fits-all solutions. Their expansive team of experts across industry verticals is always ready with bespoke solutions for your biggest challenges and opportunities. They know all businesses are different, and that's why they approach business differently. Reimagine business as usual. KeyBank opens doors. Learn more at key.com/B2B.